Welcome back. Let's begin by riding the waves of the breath. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, let your hands rest in your lap, and begin to feel the rise and fall of your breath. I will ring chimes 3 times and allow yourself to follow the waves of sound as your own breath rises and falls, comes and goes. Slowly open your eyes. We've talked about how the universe is full of wave-like patterns. The breath, the heart, the brain, the muscles, the radio, seismic waves, sound, light. Our life is surrounded by and infused with wave-like patterns. And it is our intent to use this metaphor of the waves so that when times get challenging, we're able to ride the waves rather than be knocked down by them. To the degree that we can, we anticipate the waves. Sometimes that's not possible. And we know that the waves will subside. Sometimes it's difficult to recognize the waves. Sometimes there are many small waves. Sometimes there's a big, powerful wave. And best we can, we're developing the skills to ride the waves. So one of the foundational principles we've talked about is awareness. And there are times in our life that we know paying attention is important. The relationships we have with those we love, the relationships we have with our work colleagues, with acquaintances, with friends, with our I've heard one psychologist call it consequential strangers, the person ringing up the bill for your groceries, handing you a cup of coffee. There are many ways our life is enhanced by awareness in our relationships. Now we know there are times awareness keeps us safe. For example, when driving. And we also can acknowledge that when we're receiving bad news, a hard diagnosis, an unexpected diagnosis, there are benefits to paying close attention, to allowing the information to be received, to communicate clearly best you can, to breathe deeply. But the fact of the matter is, our brain is extremely good at manufacturing threats, turning small problems into big ones. Losing our perspective and our ability to be accurate about making that distinction between our perceived problems and the actual reality. This New Yorker cartoon illustrates so well and in such a funny way our spiraling thoughts. Oh, you're definitely going to be late. And what if there's traffic? You know everyone's going south at this hour. Have you taken into account that you haven't even showered yet? You're supposed to bring the cups, remember? The party has begun and there are no cups. What happens to our body under stress? We've talked a bit about the sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight system. And when we perceive a threat, our bodies prepare for the emergency. The good oxygen is hijacked from the brain to our arms and legs, ready to flee, and we don't think very clearly. We have all this autonomic hyperactivity, shallow breathing, heart racing, blood pressure up, and the mind starts racing and it adds fuel to the fire. Now, we know that the times in which we live are, you may not have thought of it this way, but sympathetic dominant. Our 24-hour news cycle, our busy lives, the high stress that keeps us on high alert, and the breathing suffers as a result. It becomes shallow, short, and we feel frazzled, fearful, frustrated. So, what makes something stressful? Well, it's a threat to our external interests, and we can interpret things a couple of different ways based on what we are aware of, perceive. For example, a bump in the night. You're asleep, you hear a crashing sound, and whether you think it's a burglar, somebody is coming into the home, or it's that dog of our neighbors who is turning over the garbage can, getting into our garbage one more time, we respond very differently, very appropriately differently. So that bump in the night, how our brains receive that information, the fear of a burglar or the annoyance of the neighbor's dog is what makes things stressful. So I have a chart which I am going to, it is available in your handouts. Not going to make it available. It is available. And let's just sort of quickly go through it. The chart at the top says coping with stress, riding versus battling the waves. This is a helpful decision tree of sorts, regardless of what the external stressor is. Maybe you're hosting Thanksgiving at your house and your blunt uncle who always finds something wrong with everything is coming. So that's one example. Then another more serious example, which will take kind of step by step go down the chart, is you've received a diagnosis that you have breast cancer. So immediately that sympathetic arousal begins. You have your mental reaction that all sorts of racing thoughts about how could this happen to me, and the physiological reaction, shallow breathing, tension. So you have a lot to cope with in receiving this hard diagnosis. And then, best you can choose best you can to battle the waves or ride the waves. And this is where awareness comes in. Battling the waves, I'll take us down that. You're largely kind of reacting to the fight or flight alarm. It may not be conscious, it may be totally automatic, and your habitual patterns of reacting unfold. You're experiencing tough emotions, increased physical symptoms, negative spiraling of thoughts. And then the urge to action is largely driven by your strong emotions, your patterns of dealing with negative, tough things. Your behavior as a result is you're more likely to lash out. Your ability to hear information and communicate clearly is impaired. And the short-term implications is you're chronically hyper-aroused and feeling this stressful reaction in your body. The long-term implications is that it could lead to a breakdown, physical, psychological, anxious, depressed, increased susceptibility to illness, deterioration in relationships. But what if, best you can, your awareness led you to ride the waves? You're aware of all the automatic reactions. You're not suppressing them. You're aware of them. And more briefly, you experience those difficult feelings and symptoms, but you cultivate that ability to relax, to breathe, to get centered, and distinguish between the bad news and the mind's story, your tendency to tell a story that may not be entirely accurate. Your decision or urge to action is informed by your emotions, but you're guided by your awareness, your recognition of options. Your behavior, you're clearer in your communication, your relationships with others, both who care about you and want to support you, professionals who are providing treatment. The short-term implication is you have reduced stress. You're able to recover your equanimity, mental and physical. Finally, as you deal with this, you grow in confidence in your ability to cope, and you understand your own strengths, and you have a capacity to help other people cope with their problems, and generally you feel a greater peace of mind. Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is a meditation teacher, author, researcher, it's attributed to him the phrase, you can't stop the waves, but you can surf. And yoga practice is developing that awareness of the waves that make up your life and the awareness of the steadiness of simple being, that ability to be in the present moment, relying on your deep down steadiness. A yoga master said this: by being with yourself, by watching yourself in your daily life with alert interest, with the intention to understand rather than judge, in full acceptance of whatever may emerge because it is there. You encourage the deep to come to the surface and enrich your life and consciousness with its energies. This is the great work of awareness. It removes obstacles and releases energies by understanding the nature of life and mind. So we will continue to cultivate that awareness through breathing, meditation, and movement. Thank you.